AI with Alex Merced.
Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced, your friendly neighborhood Lakehouse and AI guy. And in this video, what I want to do is talk about vectors and tokens. So we know that LLMs are essentially a one example of machine learning applied to language and predicting sort of the next piece of language in a sequence. But how does it actually work? Because language is not something that's like very clearly numerical. So for example, when I think about predicting next quarter sales, very simple. We take a look at the sales for previous quarters and the basically other sort of numerical circumstances around those numbers, and then we can project those into the future. Or we can count how many times you click on a thing and how many times you buy a thing, and then count how many other times people buy and count things and see what the relationships are between those numbers and project those going forward. So like, how do you do that with language though? How do you quantify the response to, hey, how are you? Well, the way this is done is through sort of two mechanisms, tokens and vectors. So essentially what's going to happen is you take any bit of language, a sentence, a paragraph, whatnot, and you're going to break it up into smaller pieces, which could be like a word, a syllable, but these small pieces are referred to as tokens. And then we take these tokens and turn them into what's called a vector. This is the numerical representation. All a vector is a list of numbers. Okay, so it could be 10 numbers, could be 20 numbers, could be 30 numbers, generally between 0 and 1. So an example would be 0.58, 0.65. And each of these represent a particular parameter. So one particular sort of characteristic of language. Okay, so when you might hear that a certain model is 1,000,000 parameters, 1,000,000,000 parameters, 1,000,000,000,000 parameters, that just means that that's the number of characteristics they're capturing for every token, which means there's that many numbers in a vector for that token. So if it's a 1,000,000,000 parameter model, that means 1,000,000,000,000 numbers for every vector. Okay, so now that's all well and good. Okay, so then what you do is that you take everything that exists. Okay, you take books, you take blog posts, you take comments on social media, you feed all this text into this model. And what's going to do is going to tokenize it, break it up into tokens, take those tokens and turn them into vectors and start mapping out the relationship, saying, hey, you know what? Based on the data you've given me, I've constantly seen this token after this token, or these tokens always show up at the same time. And it starts capturing those relationships because it's seeing those tokens appear in lots of different places relative to other tokens. And based on that, then it's able to predict that if I say, hey, how are you? That its response should be, yeah, I'm doing good. Okay, or things like that. So that's essentially mechanically how LLMs are working on the hood. There's a lot more to it, and different LLMs take very different approaches to this. But the idea here is to give you sort of a high level understanding of what this all is. So with that, I'll see you in the next video.
Learn more with